Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're shifting gears a little bit, moving away from some heavier topics, like organizational stress or burnout, which we did spend some time on recently.
Yeah, that was quite a deep dive in itself.
It was. Today, we want to discuss something that might just be the most powerful and, well, certainly the most natural antidote available to us.
It feels like a necessary pivot, doesn't it?
Hmm?
When stress and anxiety get really overwhelming, the typical advice is often, retreat. Practice self-care by yourself, maybe some retail therapy.
Right, isolate or consume.
Exactly. But what if the science actually points us in the completely opposite direction? What if the best way to repair your own system is actually to turn your focus outward?
And that is really the heart of our deep dive today.
Yeah.
Our mission isn't just to talk about kindness like it's some, moral duty.
No, no, no.
It's to look at it as a scientifically solid, measurable strategy for self-care. We're exploring the sort of secret healing power of kindness, and specifically how the act of giving can fundamentally repair us, the giver.
Think about the last time you maybe went out of your way for someone. It doesn't have to be huge. Maybe you just really listened to a friend without jumping in to fix things.
Or, paid the toll for the car behind you, totally anonymous.
Yeah, exactly. Do you remember that feeling right after? That
Yeah.
kind of wave of warmth, maybe? A real sense of satisfaction.
Oh, absolutely. It's often quick, but it's memorable. It feels kind of light, expansive, just, I don't know, good, pure, maybe.
Right. And that feeling, it's not just you being sentimental. It's a real, measurable psychological response. It's called the helper's high.
Oh, Versailles, okay.
Yeah. It's the immediate physiological reward the body gives us when we do something selfless. It's like this ancient built-in thing designed to reinforce behaviors that make our social connections stronger.
And that's exactly what we want to unpack today. The focus is really on how giving changes our brain chemistry, lowers our stress, boosts our quality of life.
We're treating kindness less like a nice to have.
Yeah, not soft and fuzzy.
No. More like a hard, data-backed tool for your own well-being. And look, we could start with a certainty that this isn't just theory. It's been studied a lot.
Okay.
The data's pretty clear. Kindness is almost like a biological survival mechanism. It helps the giver just as much, and often, honestly, demonstrably more than the person receiving it in real physical ways.
Okay, let's get into the mechanics then. If we accept this helper's high is real, what's actually going on in our brains when we decide to, help someone out? You mentioned an internal pharmacy.
It really is. It's like your brain has this incredibly sophisticated pharmacy inside. When you do something helpful, an act of giving, your brain kicks off this chemical sequence. It's designed to make you want to do it again.
A reward system.
Powerful one, yeah. And importantly, it's not addictive in the negative sense. It's a healthy reward.
So let's look at the ingredients in this kindness cocktail. Maybe start with the one that gives us that warm, connected feeling. Oxytocin. We hear about it with bonding, like mothers and babies. But how does it work for just a quick, random act of kindness?
Oxytocin is definitely a key player here. Yes, it solidifies big bonds, but it's actually released anytime we make any positive social connection, even a fleeting one.
Huh, okay.
And crucially, oxytocin is much more than just the cuddle hormone. It's a potent, natural tranquilizer. Its main job, in this context, is really about stress reduction.
Okay, help me visualize that. How does this bonding chemical actually slow down our stress response?
Okay, so it directly targets something called the HPA axis. That's the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. Think of it as the central command for your body's stress response.
The system that pumps out cortisol.
Exactly. Cortisol, the main stress hormone, when you feel threatened or unstable, oxytocin acts like a powerful brake on this whole system. When oxytocin levels go up because of a positive social interaction, it basically tells the brain, hey, things are okay, it's safe here, we're supported.
Wow. So if I'm rushing around, stressed out, totally focused on my own massive to-do list.
Yep, stuck in that fight or flight mode.
Right. And I stop for, say, 30 seconds to genuinely help someone, like I hold the door for a parent juggling a stroller and maybe make eye contact and smile. My brain immediately starts counteracting my internal stress signals. It sends out this chemical, all clear.
That is precisely what the studies indicate. That immediate drop in cortisol. That's probably the single most significant physical benefit of being kind. It literally turns down the volume on chronic stress.
So it builds resilience, helps prevent that burnout exhaustion.
Instantly. Yes. It's powerful stuff.
Okay, so oxytocin is the stress break. What about the actual mood lift, that feeling of well-being? I'm guessing serotonin is involved there.
Absolutely. Serotonin, People often call it the stability hormone. It's central to regulating our mood, our general sense of contentment. When kindness boosts serotonin, it doesn't just give you a temporary high. It actually stabilizes your mood, makes you less emotionally volatile.
So if someone's dealing with like a constant low mood or anxiety, doing kind things regularly could act as a sort of steady behavioral counterweight.
That's a great way to put it. Serotonin stabilizes the nervous system. Doing kind acts regularly creates this kind of neurochemical baseline stability. It makes us less reactive to small daily hassles, helps us keep perspective. It's like structural reinforcement for your brain's mood architecture.
Okay, structure. I like that. Then there's the reward chemical, right? Dopamine. This is where it gets really interesting, I think, because we need to separate this from just, the quick rush you get from eating chocolate or buying something.
Yes, this distinction is critical. It shows why altruism feels different, deeper. The reward center does activate the brain's ventral striatum lights up, same as if you ate your favorite dessert or bought those shoes you wanted.
Right.
But with consumption, the pleasure is purely hedonic. The transaction's over, the stimulus fades, the dopamine gets metabolized quickly, and then...
The crash. Is that all there is feel?
Exactly, the classic consumer crash. But with kindness, you generally avoid that.
So why is the kindness reward more durable? Why does it stick around?
Because the reward isn't just tied to fleeting pleasure, it's linked to meaning and social connection. fMRI studies show something fascinating. Simple consumption lights up the striatum, yes. But genuine altruism, giving, also significantly engages the prefrontal cortex.
The part of the brain for complex stuff, planning, higher emotion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Abstract thought, long-term planning, understanding context and meaning. So you're being rewarded not just for the action itself, but for the positive impact you believe you've created. Even if that feedback is entirely internal, you just know you helped.
That difference in where the brain lights up explains why it feels different and lasts longer. It prevents the crash. Okay, that makes sense. But I have to ask this. If I know all this, if I understand that being kind releases oxytocin and makes me feel better, doesn't that sort of taint it? Doesn't it make the act inherently selfish? And does that knowledge kill the helper's high?
That is a brilliant question. Seriously. And it speaks to how sophisticated this whole system is. Look, if the goal was purely self-gratification, the act probably would feel transactional, maybe less potent. But the system seems designed to reward the prosocial outcome, the benefit to the connection or the community, not just your internal intention. So even if you consciously think, okay, I'm going to be kind now because I know it'll make me feel good.
Which feels a bit calculating.
It might feel that way, but the only pathway to actually get that good feeling requires you to genuinely do something positive for someone else. You have to actually contribute positively. This strengthens social bonds, boosts community trust. So the brain rewards the external benefit, not just the internal calculation.
So you can't really cheat the system. The only way to get the genuine lasting reward is by genuinely giving something of value, time, attention, help.
Pretty much. You have to deliver the goods, so to speak.
Okay. And this brings us to that really counterintuitive finding you mentioned earlier. The research suggesting that the people performing the acts of kindness are often happier or report more sustained well-being than the people receiving the kindness.
It totally flips conventional wisdom on its head, doesn't it? We naturally focus on the recipient's relief or joy, which is real. But the data consistently shows the sustained physiological and psychological boosts. They stack up more heavily for the giver.
So what does that tell us about happiness itself?
It fundamentally reframes it. It suggests happiness isn't just something passive that happens to you if you're lucky. It's an action. It's something you generate. So when we feel depleted or stressed, the instinct might be to pull back, conserve energy.
Hunker down.
Right. But the science actually suggests the quickest, most effective way to replenish yourself might be to actively generate well-being by doing something positive for someone else. Okay, so we've talked about the immediate brain chemistry, that helper's high. Now let's maybe zoom out a bit and look at the bigger picture, the more systemic benefits that come from making kindness a regular practice. This gets us closer to seeing it as a long-term strategy for resilience, for mental health.
Right. You already established it's a direct counter to cortisol, which we know drives chronic stress and eventually burnout. But let's dig deeper into the cognitive shift. When I'm feeling really overwhelmed, my internal monologue can just be this chaotic loop, right? Obsessing over my own problems, what I haven't done, feeling out of control.
That internal anxiety-fueled spiral is absolutely a hallmark of chronic stress. Helping someone else, even in a small way, forces a pretty profound and immediate cognitive shift. It changes your focus.
How so?
Instead of focusing inward on all the things you can't control or fix about your own situation, you focus outward on a specific, tangible need that you can address.
Ah, okay. And the simple act of succeeding in helping someone, even if it's just carrying groceries or explaining something.
That success acts as this incredibly powerful confirmation for your brain, especially the frontal lobe. It doesn't matter how messy the rest of your life feels in that moment. That one successful act sends an undeniable signal. See,
Mm.
I am competent, I am capable, I can make a positive difference.
It gives you a sense of agency back.
Precisely. Even if you can't fix your big work project deadline or a financial worry right then, you just fixed a small problem for someone else. And that leads to a measurable increase in self-esteem and self-efficacy. That feeling that you can actually do things effectively.
That's often the first thing to go when you're under severe stress, that feeling of capability. So kindness kind of restores that sense that you're still useful, still effective.
Exactly right. It's an immediate external validation of your own value. And this kind of self-affirmation is one of the most effective buffers we know against the feelings of helplessness or worthlessness that often come with anxiety or depression.
And it doesn't just stop with the giver and receiver, does it? There's this whole social dimension, this ripple effect people talk about.
Oh, the ripple effect is genuinely one of the most exciting findings in this whole area, sociologically speaking. A single act of kindness doesn't just stay between two people, it acts like a catalyst.
How does that work?
Research shows it significantly increases the odds that the person who received the kindness, or even someone who just witnessed it, a third-party observer, will be more likely to do something kind for someone else later that day.
Wow. Okay. So if I see someone pay for the next person's coffee,
You might be slightly more inclined to leave a bigger tip for the barista, or maybe later you hold the elevator for someone rushing, or you text that friend you've been meaning to check in on.
it's literally contagious goodness.
You could say that, yeah. You're essentially catalyzing this wave of positive social interactions. The implications for a community, for society, are huge. This domino effect raises the overall level of social trust and support.
Which we know are vital for a healthy community.
Absolutely essential. So you're not just being nice in isolation, you're actively investing in social capital. You're making the whole environment feel a bit safer, a bit more cohesive for everyone.
That's a powerful thought. Okay, and finally, let's touch on something that trips up so many of us in modern life. Hedonic adaptation. That cycle where we buy something new, feel happy for a bit, and then it just becomes normal and we need the next thing.
Yes, the hedonic treadmill. Kindness seems to be the ultimate circuit breaker for this. To really get it, we need to distinguish between two kinds of happiness researchers talk about.
Okay.
There's hedonic happiness. That's the pleasure, the comfort, the positive feelings you get from, say, a new gadget or a great meal. It's inherently transient. The buzz from the new phone fades, right?
Yeah.
You adapt, your baseline shifts, and you need something newer, bigger, better to get the same hit.
Which keeps us constantly chasing, often feeling kind of empty despite having more stuff.
Exactly. It can lead to depletion. Kindness, on the other hand, seems to feed what they call eudaimonic happiness.
Eudaimonic. Okay, what's that?
That's the deeper satisfaction that comes from meaning, purpose, contribution, living in line with your values. Material things, they inevitably become ordinary. They lose their shine, but the value you add to someone else's life.
Helping them through a tough time, offering real support.
Right. Or even just making their day a little easier. That feeling of having made a positive impact, that sense of connection, that value you created, doesn't really fade in the same way. It feels, well, more permanent.
The memory of making a difference sticks with the giver. It builds up over time, maybe. It gives you a sense that your life has meaning beyond just your own needs and wants.
That's the idea. Eudaimonic rewards, the ones derived from acts of kindness, contribution, pursuing, meaning they don't seem to suffer from the same adaptation problem. They install this genuine, lasting sense of purpose. And when you feel purpose, that emptiness of just consuming stuff tends to vanish because your sense of worth gets tied to your contribution, not just your accumulation.
Okay, this is where we really try to make the science practical for you listening. We've established that kindness is this incredibly potent self-care strategy, maybe the most potent, but it probably doesn't work as well if it's just random once-in-a-blue-moon thing, right?
Right. To get the real consistent benefits, especially for stress reduction and mood stability, it needs to become more of a conscious, maybe even daily practice.
And the good news is this doesn't require huge amounts of money or, grand heroic gestures.
No, definitely not. We're looking for things that are high impact neurologically, but relatively low effort practically. We've sort of synthesized 3 specific routines from the research that seem to really maximize the benefits when done consistently.
Okay, routine number 1, random acts of kindness. We've touched on this, but what's the specific goal here? How often should we aim for?
The key here is intentionality and consistency. The suggestion is to aim for about 3 small, random acts of kindness each day, and crucially, acts where you genuinely expect nothing back. No reciprocation.
Why is the randomness and the no reciprocity part so important?
Because that seems to engage the purest form of the helper's high. It removes any transactional element. Your brain registers it as purely pro-social, purely a contribution to the social good, which seems to maximize the oxytocin and serotonin boost.
Okay, 3 small, random, no strings attached acts. Give us some varied examples. People sometimes get stuck thinking it's just holding doors. What works in different settings?
Okay, sure. In the workplace, maybe it's taking a moment in a meeting to publicly acknowledge a colleague's specific contribution rather than just a private thanks. Or spending 5 minutes helping someone figure out a tech glitch that isn't really your job just because you can.
Simple stuff. What about like digitally or just out in the world?
Digitally, it could be moving past the generic like button. Maybe send a specific personalized voice note to a friend saying, "Hey, I saw this article and it made me think of you seriously. How are you doing lately?" That shows real thought.
I like that how are you really doing part.
It cuts through the noise. Out in the community, it could be consciously deciding not to get annoyed in traffic, but actually letting someone merge in front of you with a wave, maybe even a smile they can see, instead of the usual bow. Or maybe offering to take your neighbor's trash bin up their driveway if you see it sitting out, you're walking past anyway. These are micro acts. Tiny effort, but they give you these immediate high-reward bursts of oxytocin. Doing 3 a day is like keeping your internal calming system running smoothly. It's preventative stress maintenance.
Preventative maintenance, I like that frame. Okay, routine number 2 isn't just about doing kind things, but how you do them. The principle of grace in giving. You mentioned this is critical because doing it wrong can actually backfire.
Absolutely. This is about the ethics and the psychology of making kindness effective, both for them and for you. The standard is actually quite simple, but profound. Make sure your act of kindness preserves the recipient's honor and dignity, meaning the act should be offered in a way that's easy and comfortable for them to receive. It shouldn't make them feel small or embarrassed or massively indebted.
Okay. What happens if you violate that grace? If you make a big show of it or constantly remind them?
The moment your kindness makes the recipient feel awkward or like they now owe you big time or like they're somehow less capable because they needed help, you violated grace. Psychologically, when you introduce that expectation of repayment or make them feel indebted, the brain shifts the interaction. It goes from altruism, which gives that deep eudaimonic reward.
To basically a transaction, which gives the shallower hedonic reward.
Exactly. The purity of the helper's high gets compromised for you, the giver, because now there's this underlying stress of social obligation hanging in the air for both of you.
So if I help a friend move, which is a kind act, but then I keep bringing up how much my back hurt and how much time I sacrificed.
You're essentially turning your generosity into leverage. You're placing a burden on them, maybe making them regret accepting the help. The warning is clear. Don't turn your kindness into a debt. True grace is offering help freely, respectfully, genuinely, and then letting it go.
Letting it go.
Yeah. That selfless intention is what seems to deliver the purest neurochemical kickback, because your brain recognizes the action was genuinely beneficial to the social ecosystem without strings attached.
That's a really important nuance. Okay, finally, routine number 3. You frame this as maybe the most powerful and personal expression of kindness, the power of the gratitude letter.
Yes, this one's an emotional heavyweight. It takes more effort, definitely. But the research suggests it delivers perhaps the most sustained benefits for well-being. The core task is to write a detailed, really sincere letter to someone significant in your life. Could be a mentor, family member, old teacher, friend.
And the key is detail.
Detail is absolutely key. Express exactly why you're grateful for them. Be specific about how their actions or presence positively impacted your life. Generic thanks for everything notes just don't have the same psychological weight.
And it's not just writing the letter, is it? The delivery method matters.
That's the truly transformative part, according to the positive psychology research. The biggest impact comes from reading this letter aloud, face to face, to the person you wrote it for.
Wow, that sounds intense.
It can be. But the emotional power of that shared moment, the vulnerability, the connection, the expressed appreciation, It's like an astronomical booster shot for happiness. For both of you, it hits all the buttons. Deep oxytocin release from the connection, dopamine reward from expressing meaning and gratitude, and it massively bolsters the recipient's sense of value and self-worth.
And the effects aren't just fleeting.
No, the data on this is pretty incredible. Studies show that this single experience can significantly boost the reported happiness levels and reduce depressive symptoms for both the writer and the recipient for a noticeable period, sometimes weeks, even months afterward. It really is a combination of everything we've discussed. It combines intentionality, deep meaning, and pure, powerful social connection.
So, wrapping this up, I think the core message is pretty clear. The most effective psychological uplift, the best way to boost your own well-being, might not be found in, expensive treatments or buying more things. It might actually be found in the simple, often selfless act of giving.
Yeah. When you're feeling depleted, stressed out, maybe a bit low, the science is pointing towards this. The fastest way back to feeling replenished might just be a conscious, deliberate act of kindness, something that triggers that natural flood of oxytocin, hits the brakes on the stress response.
And taps into that deeper sense of meaning and connection.
Exactly. And remember, this isn't about being a martyr or neglecting your own needs, not at all. It's about using behavioral science smartly, leveraging your own internal chemistry to build resilience, find purpose, and achieve a more lasting kind of well-being.
Kindness as a robust, accessible tool for your own health, and maybe for strengthening the community around you too.
Well said.
Okay, so here's a provocative thought we want to leave you with this week. We've spent this whole deep dive talking about extending kindness, honor, and grace outward to others as a way to trigger our internal pharmacy. And we found that a huge part of the benefit comes from the act of giving itself, boosting our own sense of capability, our self-efficacy, our feeling of meaning.
Right, the internal reward for the external act.
So what happens if we try to apply that same principle internally? What if we practiced radical self-kindness? Meaning, what if you consciously decided to treat yourself with the same profound honor, patience, and dignity that you would strive to offer a valued friend, or even that stranger you helped? Would that same helper's high mechanism, that same neurochemical reward system, apply internally?
Could you trigger that oxytocin release, that sense of safety and worth, by offering genuine grace and understanding to yourself, especially when you stumble or feel overwhelmed?
Yeah. What kind of shift might that create in your daily stress levels if you made an intentional practice of acknowledging your own efforts, forgiving your own mistakes, giving yourself that same grace you give others?
That's definitely something to ponder, perhaps something to explore in your own life.
Yeah.
Does self-kindness activate the same healing pathways? What would that look like?
Food for thought. We definitely encourage you to maybe try one of those 3 daily routines we discussed this week. Pick one, the random acts, the grace in giving, maybe even start drafting that gratitude letter and just notice. Actively pay attention to how it makes you feel.
Yeah, measure the difference, even subjectively, in your own stress or mood levels.
Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. If you found this useful, maybe think about sharing it with someone in your life who you think could use a natural lift right now.
Until next time, stay well, take care of yourselves, and stay kind, both to others and maybe, just maybe, to yourself too.